wait, and I'm sure that the other will join. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our analytic tug, the first one from the year. So what makes the analytic tug a little bit more different is because it's really dedicated to how to do analytics in Tableau. We have having like almost every month a tug on the last 2 years. And here is like, if you go to this QR code, you will be able to subscribe to the new tug, the one in February, coming up with like a very good lineup too. And also, you can, if you scroll down, you will be able to see all the video of our previous 2 years sessions. But I will make it on the chat and will copy paste later. Sedale had to leave the tug to refocus on his personal life. So for the moment, we are only Prasam and myself. Prasam, you know him when he's doing the APAC US session on different time zone. But don't worry, we will also today announce the new tug leader. So just some word about me. I am the chance to have been named this year Visionary and since 3 years Ambassador. Thank you very much, guys. It means a lot for me. I am leading the Tableau Center of Enablement for Swiss Bank, and Tableau is, I always said that Tableau and visual analytics is my ikigai, raison d'être. I really loved it. I do it on my personal time. And if one day you want to join the Data Plus Women Zurich, here is a QR code. Prasam, you know him, is a Tableau Social Ambassador, Tableau Future Author, and he is really passionate about his job too. And according to him, he loves partying. So I hope that I see him partying in one of the Tableau conference one day. So for the announcements of the new tug leader coming up next month, Shimdi Novsu. Shimdi, you all know him. He has an impressive portfolio. He had been winning several Viz of the Day, Vizy winner. He's a Tableau Public Ambassador. I mean, it's great what he's doing. I don't know, he's always pushing back, pushing more and more like the limit on the beauty that you can do in Tableau. I'm very happy to have him on board. So you will see him on the next tug on February. And then some ground rules. If you want to say hello, please use the chat. If you have a question for us or for any of the panelists today, please use the Q&A because it's much easier for us to follow and to be sure to track all your questions. Now, just enjoy. The session is being recorded. You will find the recording on YouTube, and I have to tell you on when you register for the new session, we always have all the recordings there. And we will also send an email with the recording, so keep in touch. And otherwise, please send us some love or to the speaker if you like the session in social media or by Twitter. It's always, I mean, a lot for us. So the agenda for today, we will have a great presentation from Keith and Kendra. And why I say great or fantastic is because I already attended this presentation at the TC last year, and it was really awesome. Sadly, Kendra was not there, but Keith did a good job. But I'm sure that now with the two of them, they will like be awesome. And then we will have like Christina doing a little presentation about Tableau prep and how to make data Deidentification. I try to pronounce it well. And then we will have like, I will have the pleasure with Sean to present the solution for the analytic games, and more importantly, the winner. We will name 9 winners at the end of the game, 3 in each category, and we will send you swag. So thank you very much. And now let me introduce very quickly Keith and Kendra. Keith lead Interworks team in the East Coast for Interworks. If you haven't seen his Tableau public profile, you should. I really love his spell OL dashboard because it's very, very funny. And yeah, I really like even the design, it's great. And outside this work, maybe you will find Keith exploring or drinking some coffee on a coffee shop or cooking Italian food. I don't know where that's come from. Maybe someone know you very well, Keith, has been inviting at your place. And we will have also Kendra presenting user-centered dashboard development. Kendra is an analytic architect at Interworks. Is patient for people on data problem solving. Is very well known. And yes, your fun fact, Kendra, is sadly not so fun than the one from Keith. But yes, she's an expert, she's brilliant, and I'm sure that she will share with you a very much more about her and some fun fact. I will stop sharing so you can share your screen.
Kendra is actually the more fun out of the two of us, so I really had to amp up my fun fact in my profile.
I'm sure.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I can't believe how many people we have on the at the tug today. So super exciting. Looks like everybody's from all over the world. So what a pleasure. And thank you so much for having us. Before we get started, I'm just going to recap some of the Zoom features that Annabelle already previewed for us. So if you have questions throughout our presentation, please put them in the Q&A. That will help me and Keith be able to find them at the end of our presentation so we can answer them in the Q&A feature for you. And then we're going to ask you to use the chat. Everybody's already been in there talking about where they're from and how their day's going. So keep an eye out. We're going to ask for your participation there a couple times throughout our session. So without further ado, as Annabelle said, my name is Kendra Allenspach. I'm an analytics architect with Interworks. I've been with the company for about 4 years as a consultant, but prior to that, I was actually a client of Interworks, and I loved it so much, I decided that I would give a stab at the consulting side. I'm trying to think of a good fun fact, since my fun fact before was kind of professionally lame. I think my fun fact would be that last year, I completed a 60-day yoga challenge where I did yoga every day for 60 days. And it was one of the coolest things I did. And I made an awesome community here at my yoga studio through that. And I still do lots of yoga every day to this day. So yes, so that's my fun fact. Keith?
Yeah, and I'm Keith. I've worked with Interworks for almost 5 years now. And before that, I actually did analytics for a school district. I was a teacher before that as well. So I've done a couple of different things, but fell in love with Tableau when I was working for a school district, and now get to work with it every day. And so we're going to start off today with actually just a quick question for all of you. I came across this meme recently, and I wonder if you guys can relate to this. Have you ever seen or built a dashboard and then you were just so disappointed because you saw that users were exporting the data to Excel and not actually using it? If you want to drop an emoji that represents your reaction, if you've been in that situation in the chat, we'd love to see if you can, if you've resonated with that. I've definitely had this experience before where I've invested a lot of time into building something that I thought was going to be great. And then it felt so disappointing to see people not using those viz and tooltips and the interactivity and the drill downs and all the things that you had built. It can definitely be frustrating, I think, as we're seeing from some of the reactions. But one thing that we just want to take a step back and consider today is what we can learn from these situations, because there is something that's going on when a user exports data to Excel. There is some way in which that dashboard that we thought was so thoughtful and was going to meet their needs is not actually doing what they need.
Yeah, lots of great emoji reactions in the chat. I empathize with all of them. Yeah, so as Keith said, today we want to consider how some small mindset shifts can change the tone of our reaction from this frustration of like, why are users doing this, to something more like curiosity, to say, I wonder why users are doing this. So we're going to share some things with you that we've learned about how to transform your design and development experience by taking a user-centered approach throughout the entirety of your development process. And this centers around 3 principles that we'll share with you today. The first is users first. Start with the users, not the data. The second is users during, not just users first, but users throughout. And the third principle is users after. Don't build it and forget it, but build it and nurture it. So you can think of this with 3 easy memory techniques of users first, users during, users after. You'll see this little tracker throughout our slides to keep track of where we are in this in these 3 principles. So I'm curious to hear from you in the chat, which phase of development do you find it most difficult or hardest to connect with your users? Is it first, during, or after? After, a lot of afters, a lot of first. Okay, so we've got answers from the whole process. Well, the good news is we're going to cover all 3 today. So you are in for some helpful tips. Keith, you want to jump in with our story?
Yeah, we're actually going to start out with just a story to illustrate why you might actually need to involve users first. So Kendra and I have the privilege of working with a lot of different clients in our roles as consultants. And one of my favorite clients that I've had the chance to work with recently was Johnson & Johnson. And they hired us and said, hey, we prototyped this dashboard in Tableau, but it's very rough and we'd love some help just making it more refined so that our users really enjoy it. And I can't show you the actual dashboard, but what we started out looked something like this, okay? And I don't know if you've ever seen a dashboard like this or even built a dashboard like this, but it is a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of data, but it was basically a giant crosstab. It had some filters, it had a little bit of interactivity, but users were finding it really difficult to navigate. When I first
Keith, I think is it just me?
We lost Keith.
Oh, Keith, hold on. We lost your audio. Oh, now it's back. I think
it's back? Okay.
Yeah, I think it just turned you off for a second. Try again.
My internet connection was unstable. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we got you now.
Great. Okay. So when I first started using Tableau, my instinct here would have just been go visualize this data, build some charts. That's what Tableau is best at, right? It's great at showing people data, and it's really hard to see the data in that crosstab format. But something that I've learned in my couple of years of consulting is rather than going in and just doing what I think makes sense, take a step back and make sure that's actually what the people who will be using the dashboard need. And so rather than just going and sort of reinventing this dashboard, I asked Johnson & Johnson, can we talk to some users who would actually use this dashboard first? And what we did was we had them pull this actual dashboard up, and I had just watched them use it. And we discovered some really great stuff in the process, because as they were clicking around, I said, tell me what you do with this dashboard. And they're like, I apply a filter, and then I export the data to Excel. And I said, tell me more about why you're exporting that data to Excel. And they told us things like, the dashboard loads really slowly, or I don't need all of this data, or I don't actually know how to sort the data in this dashboard, and I need to be able to sort it. And so just in that really brief couple minutes of observing them struggle with this initial prototype, we learned a lot of great things that gave us some direction for our redesign. Kendra, I think you're on mute. There you go.
There we go. Keith's story here highlights our first principle: start with users, not the data. So a key thought leader in this space named Brian O'Neill says that if you want a human to use a thing, you should talk to those humans first. And we fully believe in that as well. At Interworks, we've embedded this into our core approach to dashboarding by naming the first step of our process, understand. So we tell all of our consultants that they should start a new project by digging into the use case for the requested solution to understand the why behind the request. The most common scenario that I encounter, and maybe you all will relate to this, is that my client comes to me with a preconceived notion of what they think their users need. So they're coming to me already in something we call the solution space. And usually it's a document full of technical requirements. And while that can be really helpful, it can also lead me down a path that I might not be ready to go down yet. So my job as a consultant is to help our clients step back, think more like a project manager, and product manager, and get into the problem space with our users. Because we want to fully vet and understand our users' needs before we jump to any conclusions on what dashboards to build. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is not always easy. It's an ongoing practice of changing my mindset over the years. When I first started developing in Tableau, it was always, oh, just put the data in, explore, see what you can find. And so now I'm having to unlearn that and say, let me talk to my users. How can we educate our clients to do the same. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of curiosity to get into this habit of asking questions and understanding the context of the systems, as well as identifying like the real questions that are being asked that they need answered. But if we take this time up front, we found that it saves a lot of time and heartache down the road when we inevitably are ending up redoing dashboards that didn't meet users' needs. And this takes us into our second core principle, which is not just users first, but users throughout. So when we talk about our people at the beginning of the project and understanding their needs, we need to continue that relationship with them into the development stage of our dashboard process. By taking this people first approach during development, we can ensure that we're incorporating solutions for our users as we go. So to really kick off this concept, you'll want to determine your MVP early. And no, I don't mean the most valuable player, though I like to think my dashboards on my Tableau server are the MVPs. Here I'm talking about MVP, minimum viable product. So you've probably heard this term tossed around a lot when it comes to building software or even consumer products. And it can feel really official, like, oh, my dashboard's not important enough to have an MVP. But really it is. And all it means is you're figuring out what are the most essential parts of the design to include in your initial build. So sometimes, people come to us and say, I don't know what I need. Can you just build something for me to react to? And then I can tell you better what I need. And honestly, that's kind of a good case scenario because you can build them an MVP and then you get to say, am I going in the right direction? Right? So we take our MVP, we move into building this prototype with our MVP defined, and that allows us to get these ideas out of our head to build something for people to react to so we can get tangible feedback from our users and really start to hone in on what they need. And that leads us to user feedback. When I first started building dashboards, I would aim to get things pixel perfect before I showed them to my end users. Maybe you all can relate. Obviously, I want them to think I'm a great dashboarder. So I didn't want to show them something that was, maybe not my highest quality work. But what ended up happening was 99% of the time, I would get these massive change requests that would leave me feeling defeated. And like I'd wasted hours of my development time building something that I thought the users would love, but it was too complicated or missed the mark of their actual problem. So now I incorporate this MVP prototype user feedback cycle in my development, and I ask users for feedback throughout, which allows me to answer the question of, am I going in the right direction sooner and not wasting time building something that I'm going to have to undo and redo later. So I aim for works in progress instead of works of perfection when I'm in this development stage. And I don't know about you, but I'm very passionate about my work. I get attached to the work I do. And so when I get those change requests, sometimes they cut pretty deep. I'm like, what? I thought this is what you wanted. And so by doing rapid prototyping, I'm not as attached to my design yet. And so those change requests don't cut quite so deep when they come through.
So we want to talk about how we incorporated this idea of rapid prototyping and gathering user feedback on the Johnson & Johnson project that I mentioned at the beginning. When we had a rough prototype built of the dashboard, we actually took it back to those initial users and we had them test it out and just give us some feedback. And I'm really glad we did because it turns out there was something important that we had really missed. So here's an early iteration of what we were working on. We tried to simplify the user interface. And so we put a left-hand sidebar that contained a lot of the filters and some summary information that we thought would be helpful to those users. But the space was feeling pretty tight. And so we put a sorting section on the right-hand side because we knew that sorting feature would be really important to users. And we thought that would be sufficient. But when we gave this to one of the users to test, she pulled up the dashboard. I had her share her screen, and here's what she saw. So her screen resolution was different. She also had a smaller monitor, and she was only seeing a portion of that dashboard. And so as she started clicking around, she said, well, it's a little easier for me to filter this, and I can see the data a little bit better, but I still can't sort this data, and so this is still not useful. I still need to export it to Excel. And what I wanted to say in that session was, just scroll to the right. I remembered that you needed to sort this. I built that feature in there for you. And I also kind of wanted to say, you can click any header and sort by any column in Tableau, but those were not intuitive behaviors to her. And what I remembered in that moment was that in those situations where you feel like you're kind of fighting with a user, where there's something that's not intuitive to them, what we want to challenge ourselves to do is to not change that user, but to change the design. Because although this person was, a smart person, that was not my grandpa who was trying to figure out how to use a dashboard. She was a digitally literate person. If I was going to have to explain to her how to sort the dashboard and how to use certain features, I was probably going to have to explain that to 1,000 other users, because this dashboard was going to a really big audience. And so we always just want to make sure that if there's ways that we can invest some time in making a dashboard a little bit more intuitive for all of the users, that time, the extra time in development, can really pay off in the time that it saves all of the users when they use it over and over again.
Yeah, it's so important to think about your users at every stage of the development cycle, as Keith's saying. And when we go to publish our dashboard to production, we think, okay, we're done, like, got it out to production, I'm good. But honestly, this is a really important time to continue connecting with your users, because our third principle here is don't build it and forget it, build it and nurture it. And honestly, in this principle, we could be talking about the dashboard. Don't build your dashboard and forget it, build it and nurture it. But we're also talking about the relationships with our users. We need to continue to nurture those relationships as we move into this final stage of development. If we truly want to shift this mindset of how we approach dashboard development, we need to begin to think of our dashboards as products with ongoing life cycles that should be improved upon over time. I would say, from my personal experience, this is an area where most analytics teams have ample opportunity to transform the way they think of their dashboards, to shift out of that developer mindset and into the mindset of a product manager. So like I said, instead of checking that box that says done when the dashboard goes live, we continue to provide a process for ongoing user input so dashboards can continue to grow and evolve with the ever-changing state of our business. I think it's safe to say that all of our businesses are changing every single day. I know for me, things are constantly on the move. Nothing is permanent, which means that the dashboards we built 3-6 months ago may not be as relevant today. So we need to be constantly collecting that feedback from the users to say, how could this dashboard better serve you now with this way that our business is? One way that we can do that is to provide a mechanism for users to tell you what they think, so you can better track and analyze and then act on that input from your users. At Interworks, we've been thinking about this problem for a while, and we're trying to implement some solutions in various ways with our clients. And one of those ways is with our Curator product, where we've been working to evolve the feature within Curator so that you can just easily turn on a feedback collector on your dashboards that users can say, rating 1 through 5, this dashboard's working for me or it's not, and here's the problems that I'm having. In fact, if you're an existing Curator client today with Interworks, you have feedback collectors in the back end of your Curator that you can turn on your dashboards right now. So if you're interested in learning more about that, if you're a Curator customer, definitely reach out to me after the presentation and I can help you get that set up. So from my experience, this post-production feedback can be one of the messiest parts, right? They're slacking you, they're sending you messages on Teams, they're sending you emails, they're like, hey, stopping you in the hallway if you're back in the office, like, hey, this dashboard's not working for me, can you fix it? And you're like, oh my gosh, I am going crazy with all this random feedback. And so we want to try to channel all that feedback in an organized process so that, like I said, we can analyze it and act on it. Because the last thing we want to happen is to have done all this work to nurture a relationship with our users and then ignore the feedback that they're giving us at this point in the process. We want them to feel heard and that they're collaborators with us in this journey. And so anyways, I think that if you really focus on this part of the process, you will then get great collaborators that you will get to work with ongoing. for the next dashboard when you start back at the beginning. And now Keith's gonna wrap us up with that Johnson & Johnson story.
Yeah, so you may be wondering where we landed on this project that I've been talking about. And somewhat ironically, we landed in a place that wasn't all that different from where we started. Because the more that we talked to users and the more that we dug into the user behavior, we started to understand that they actually didn't need charts. They didn't need visualizations. They didn't need summaries of the data. Because the use case in this particular situation was that users had a really large set of data about different doctors, and they needed to apply a set of criteria and filter down to the doctors that most mattered to them, depending on the strategy they were trying to advance or the doctors that they needed to connect with. And so what we needed to do was give them the data in a tabular format, just like a table, and allow them to find the records, but we needed to make it much easier for them to find the doctors that matter to them. It was tricky because as we tried to figure out, well, how would you find the doctors, the criteria was very dynamic. Different users needed different ways of filtering and sorting, and there wasn't really a common theme. And so we had to build in a lot of flexibility so this tool worked for a very broad audience. Just as a reminder, this is kind of what we started with. It's not the actual dashboard, but a very rough, it's a cross tab with a bunch of filters. And up next, I'll show you a version of what we produced for them that's just been anonymized and de-identified. So we ended up creating for them sort of a choose your own adventure dashboard. We built for them a dashboard where they could build their own table, and that sidebar on the left sort of evolved over time. And we created a way for them to select different pieces of data that matter to them. Sometimes they were looking for doctors that served a particular demographic group by age or by race, right? Or there were different criteria that they might need to look for. And so we told them, we gave them the option to tell us which pieces of data matter to them and to add those to the table. Since they told us that sorting was such an important feature to be able to sort by various metrics, we moved that from the right-hand side over to the left just to make sure no users missed it. But we also made it dynamic, so it only showed them the fields that they had added to the table because we wanted to show them everything that they needed, but nothing more to keep that interface really clean and simple. And so we ended up, with a dashboard that was not really all that different, right? It's a table, but it was layered with all of this functionality that made it much easier for users to interact with. And so rather than needing to export that to Excel to apply their filters or to sort, and also, and they told us they were using Excel because it was actually just faster than Tableau. We made it so that this dashboard was much more performant and much more flexible and gave them the things that they needed. If you are interested in figuring out more about how we built that dashboard for them, there's a QR code here that actually outlines the process. That left-hand sidebar was pretty complicated to build. And I will say that on the front end, what felt simple and easy to users was actually quite complex on the back end. But we felt that it was worth it to go through that complexity to make that really easy for users to interact with. So there's a blog, if you scan that article, that walks through the steps required to build something like that. But I will just give a quick disclaimer and say, just because you can build an accordion style sidebar does not mean that you should build an accordion style sidebar. We would recommend that you only build that complex of a solution when it's really required, and it's not going to be the right solution in all places. So definitely use it if it's helpful, but don't do it just because you can.
Yes, sage advice, Keith. So we have covered a ton of ground today, and we want to close by recapping our 3 principles of user-centered dashboard development. So the first one, start with users, not the data. If you want people to use your dashboards, involve them in the development process. Talk to users about their needs. Understanding their workflows and frustrations, and spending time exploring the problem space with them will help you move more clearly into solution mode.
Don't just talk to users at the beginning, though, involve them throughout the process. So if you can show them those works in progress, if you can get feedback from them throughout the development process, test the dashboard as you go to validate that you're heading in the right direction.
And the third, don't build it and forget it, build it and nurture it. Finding ways to collect feedback from users as they start using your dashboard can help you understand how to iterate on it and define your next MVP. If you were just blown away by the principles and stories that we shared today, and you want to learn more about implementing a user-centered dashboard development mindset and process in your business, you definitely want to check out our UCDD workshop for analytics teams. I developed this last year, and it's an 8-hour hands-on experience where your team will dive deeper into these UCDD principles and concepts, and you'll walk away with a framework as well as tangible resources and tools to help you implement this mindset into your business. Super fun. I'm one of the leaders for it, and so we'd love to have you reach out if that is interesting to you.
And if you have any other questions, I have some contact info for myself and for Kendra up there. We've also got a couple of links to our blog, which we're always sharing interesting articles and tips about. So feel free to check that out if any of this felt helpful to you. I'll leave this up here just for a minute. If people want to check out any of those links or copy our email addresses down, again, we'd love to hear from you. And Annabelle, I have not been monitoring the Q&A, but I don't know if there's anything that came in that's worth us answering really quickly before we wrap up.
You have 20 something question, so you can.
Oh, great.
Them.
How do we choose which ones we have time for? Speed answers.
You have a little time, so you can take some of them with pleasure. The rest you can answer later after, and you will probably be sharing with me the different link, and I will send it to everyone who registered to the webinar as an email. Do you? I think that one of you, Keith or Kendra, can read some of the question and answer a lot. Your accent is more beautiful than mine, so.
Sure.
Yeah, we can answer a couple of these live, and then for the ones we don't get to live, Keith and I can type answers into the Q&A after we wrap up. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's go for it. Kendra, is there one that jumps out to you that we can start with? And I'll kind of scan through the list as well.
Sure. So Gary asked, totally get the importance of understanding the why back in the understand phase at users first. What tips do you have to shift users to that mindset? That's a really good question, because not only is it a mindset shift for us as developers / product managers, but we do have to bring our users along on that mindset shift journey with us. For me, I have found success when I talk to the users and explain to them my process and how I go about developing dashboards and why it's important for me to understand the why. I usually try to draw on a couple past examples of a situation where, when we didn't do this exploration of the why ahead of time, we had to add these extra hours to the development process later on. So we're trying to avoid that type of scenario here. And I typically find when I just explain and give context as to this request to dig deeper, they're usually more willing. Somebody asked another question that is sort of related of like, what do you do when your users don't want you to explore the why with you? And they're like, just build it. I'd say in that case, okay, then build what they're asking for. And then you'll be able to kind of sneakily go back in time, go backwards in the process and start to uncover whys after that first build. Just make that first build a rapid prototype so you don't invest too much time in it, right? We're just getting something for them to react to. And usually your users will start to figure it out with you over time and be like, oh, that's why she wanted to do that, when they realize that the process goes better that way. I don't know. Anything else you want to add to that, Keith?
No, I was actually going to say, Jason asked 2 questions. One sort of related. He's saying, what do you do when users come to you with that solution space? They know exactly what they want you to build. It's a great question, Jason. We encounter that sometimes. If it's a new group that you're working with, yes, it can be really annoying to drag them back into that why when they feel like they know exactly what they want. So sometimes I'll actually just build what they want, and then we'll test it and we'll see if it actually meets their needs. And if it does, it's great feedback that these people are great at understanding what they need to build. And if it doesn't, then you can say, hey, let's go back and revisit, and then in the future, loop us in a little bit earlier. So that's an approach that I sometimes take. And Jason had also asked about how we build solutions for that are going to be shown across a host of different devices. Most of the dashboards that I build, I think, are consumed on desktop, and so I generally focus on that. But there are times when I do need to build a mobile interface, and you sort of have to treat that as an entirely different thing because it's such a different device to consume things on. So you really have to think from scratch about what's most important, and you really have to strip down to the things that are most important because there's such limited space to work with. Kendra actually has a great blog with some technical tips for how to build those mobile interfaces on our blog as well.
Yeah. Another anonymous user asked, is it safe to ask users, what problem are you attempting to solve? That way the design can have features that are insightful. I would say yes, it is a good idea to ask users what problems are they trying to solve. However, what I will caveat that with is most of the time, the problem that they tell you is like an actual symptom of the real root problem. And so that's why we want to start and ask some additional follow-up questions to really make sure that we're addressing the correct problem. What I like to do, rather than asking what problems are you attempting to solve over and over again, I usually will start with something like that. And then I'll ask them to walk me through their current process of how they're getting the answers that they're hoping this dashboard will now answer. Because if I sit with them and I understand, okay, they're going to this place, they're filtering it like this, they're manipulating it like this, or maybe they're not accessing data at all right now, and this is a new data set. If I just explore their process a little bit more, I can think then about how this dashboard will slot into that process and hopefully make things better in the future. So it's great to ask questions, but if you can get them talking less about like what they want the dashboard to do and like the root problem and just start talking more about their day-to-day, I think you'll find that it uncovers a lot of useful information that you may not have gotten right off the bat.
Annabelle, how much time do we have for questions? I want to be careful that we don't steal time from other presenters.
Just one additional question and we will wrap up to Christina.
Okay.
She's getting
One
excited.
more.
She wants to speak.
We'll try to type some answers to the other ones that we got. There was a question here that I think is really helpful. How do you navigate when a decision maker wants something that goes against end user feedback? That is a tricky place to be in, where somebody is asking for something and maybe they're not really connected to end user needs. I try as much as possible to get that end user feedback, and sometimes maybe even just getting them in the same room so that they can get on the same page about what do we think needs to be built from your perspective, the decision maker, or the user's perspective. Sometimes that can help sort out that tension. But sometimes also, like I said, building what people want and then seeing how it's received, monitoring that usage, and then going back with some data to say, hey, people aren't actually using this. I think we missed the mark somehow. Let's go back and revisit. It can be a great way to build that buy-in over time as well. And somebody asked if that dashboard I shared will be available. It is on my Tableau. It is not on my Tableau public profile. It is on one of my colleagues' Tableau public profiles because I had him create an anonymized version of it. So if you search our blog, and we can drop a link to it, it's available on Linus's public profile. So it's TSE, Linus TSE, if you search for him on Tableau public.
Yeah, I just dropped the link to the blog again in the webinar chat, and I believe that the dashboard in Tableau Public is either embedded or linked through that blog, so you can definitely check it out there.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you, Annabelle.
Our pleasure, and you can send me all the link and I will send to all the participants an email. Let me share my screen to present again our next presenter, which is a personal friend. I really love her. I am very sad that she's living so far away from me, but that's life. So Christina is a data designer, data strategic at Booz Allen Hamilton. I try to pronounce the H as much as possible with my French accent.
You're awesome. You're better at your English than I am.
She's very much involved in Tableau community and also Mom with Viz. I don't know where you find the time to do whatever you are doing on the Tableau community at work and being a mom. But yeah, well done, Christina. And in her spare time, she enjoys science fiction. And I think that several of your Tableau public Viz are about this thematic. And now we'll just stop sharing and the floor is yours, Christina.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So I'm going to be sharing a number of different things here today. So I might be doing some swapping here between tabs and things. So I'll try and keep this nice and sweet for the time being. So thanks everyone for being here today. I wanted to share a little bit about me. I am a lead data designer and strategist, as Annabelle was saying, at Booz Allen Hamilton. I have been a Tableau social ambassador now for going on 2 years. It's a lot of fun. Love the people, love the community. I am also a Data FamCon lead. So we are essentially a pop culture, nerd culture, all things geek community group. And so we put out data every month. So come check us out. I've also now been a Tableau user for 7 years. It's crazy. I opened up Tableau, I think, for the first time in early 2016. And I made a full pivot to primarily using Tableau for most of my data viz work. So time does fly when you are having fun. I also love community building. That is like my biggest thing that I love to do with my job. And that kind of falls into enablement and training, something that I've been really focused on working through in the last couple of years and really training on that aspect of my skill set. And then also from a fun aspect, I collect records with my husband. It came out of a 2020 stirring to get really into vinyl collecting. I grew up with vinyl all around me via my dad, but I started building out my own collection in 2020 and building out a sound system. So that's been a lot of fun. And I also love a lot of vintage and thrift clothing. You'll probably find me going to the latest consignment stores or vintage stores, wherever I end up traveling. So always happens to be a lot of fun. So I like to talk with folks a little bit about de-identifying your dashboards. What is that exactly? So when you de-identify your dashboards, it basically means that you're putting maybe like random names or IDs or, whatever things that might be, PHI or PII is what they call personally identifiable information. And what that does is that it allows you to take those existing data sets, take those existing dashboards and share them with others. I am a consultant like Keith and Kendra that were presenting before me. And so one thing that I've found is that it makes it easy for me to share with my potential clients. Say, for example, I'm doing a demo of existing dashboard work that I've done for another client. They allow me to utilize, at least the visual aspects of it, but I can't really show any of the things that were proprietary to that previous client, but I want to actually share this basically the same templates. So the nice thing about being able to de-identify the data in those dashboard sets, you're always going to have some examples to share with people. And for example, if you are building out a data viz portfolio and you want to actually utilize some of the templates you've used for maybe some of your corporate work, but you don't want to share that data. That way you can share some of your work with outside clients, or also on, maybe for example, in a community tug. I know that, for example, the health tug, you will probably see a lot of examples in that particular tug where they have to de-identify data because it's health data is usually very proprietary. So I did want to show a de-identified example that I'll actually be utilizing some of the example data that's already been de-identified. So basically we're using, for this particular example, de-identified data that we're also going to de-identify a second time. But I thought it was an easy example to show because it's fairly simple dashboard, but you can kind of tell that I've mocked up a bunch of gray squares and rectangles over things that people should not be seeing from outside of my firm or even across different groups in my firm based on what level of access that they have to certain data sources. So if I was to share this with another team, they might go, that's great and all, but I can't really see this looking like, actual data. So that's kind of what led me to getting a question from another team back in December of, hey, I really like this dashboard, but however, we can't put, even just a PDF example of this up on our, SharePoint site for good resources, best practices. Would you be able to share an anonymized example of it? And so I said, oh, you know what? Actually, I can. So what I actually ended up finding is that there was a couple of solutions I found online that are fairly recent, one of which I do have the link to it. So when this is eventually posted, I'm happy to put this into the chat. A man named Eric Parker, I think he's based out of Seattle area. He did an original blog post about this in 2021 utilizing Tableau Prep. I just kind of took it a step further and sort of massaged that initial solution that he had provided. So thanks to him, this is what originally sort of inspired me to take this route. So essentially using Tableau Prep, a very simple flow to shift the bulk of the de-identification from manual labor, because in the past I would actually take Excel and it was just kind of a very messy process and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I'd rather just utilize the tools that I already have to make it a little easier for me. So I'm going to walk you really quickly through a couple of steps that I did. Primarily, you're going to see it's ranged into 4 larger steps. There's a little bit of stuff that happens in between, but primarily you're going to be doing input of your original data in prep. You're going to use a grouping function to get some suppressed values, meaning you're going to just get a list of, maybe however many rows in your data that you need to have suppressed. And then you're going to use a online tool called Mockaroo that's going to help you identify and create new column names. So this is where the fun happens. And then, of course, you're going to bring it back into prep and you're going to do an inner join. And I'm going to show you what you do with that with the original data that you had. And then you're going to do some additional cleanup, get rid of some columns that you don't need anymore from the old data set. And then after that, voila, your data file is ready to pop into Tableau. Woohoo! So let me go ahead and we're going to shift into Tableau Prep gear here. And so what I'm going to show you here first is the initial flow. So if everyone can go ahead and see my Tableau Prep screen here. So I went ahead and I already popped in what is kind of like my first data set here. And so what I have here is, I usually like to look at initially like, okay, here are the field names and things, preview in here. I sometimes like to do an initial just clean step, kind of see what all of my data is that I'm currently working with. Obviously, this is already a de-identified data set. Obviously, you can probably see the contractor name. I've changed to just company name, but the main thing that I'm going to want to have changed is likely the ID and the lead name. So the people that are actually associated with that particular record. Let's just go ahead and we're going to rename our step view data. Sometimes I just do like an initial view of the data. The second part that I mentioned in the next input steps, you're going to see this thing called aggregate, the little sigma function. If you are relatively new to Tableau Prep, go ahead and click the good old sigma here. And what this is going to allow you to do is that you can pick out the, maybe you want to add all of your grouped fields here, but for my purposes here today, maybe I just want to take the, maybe the project name, the lead name, as well as the ID. And so what that's going to allow me to do once I have this suppressed, so we can go ahead and just say suppress values. And so that's just going to give me that full list of every single person that has been associated with that given contract. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just do a simple output here. And I'm going to output this to, you can choose again what you want to have it go to. I'm going to have this go to a CSV file because I think I chose originally from this data set, it was actually a CSV file. Maybe we're going to go ahead and say suppressed values list. And I'm just going to go ahead and save that and then run the flow. Okay, it's done. So when I go ahead and I look into, and actually, you know what? I think I may want to check a different location here for this output. It doesn't automatically spit it out. Okay, I'm actually going to change that location there so it's easier to get to later. Let's go ahead and rerun our flow again. Okay, so now we've got our data. And what I'm going to go ahead and do here, I'm going to go back into my data sources, and then we're going to look at that actual output here. I think it was there. Suppress values list. Okay. And so what that will allow me to do, let's see where that didn't go, where I wanted it to. Ah, there it is. Okay, I was like, where did my data go? And so what we'll go ahead and do, again, I'm just, you know what, for the heck of this, I'm just going to go ahead and share my full screen because I'm realizing I'm jumping between so many different things now. All right, let's go ahead and do this. All right, now I have my suppressed values list. So let's go ahead and open this up in Excel. All right, so now here you have a full and complete list of every person, and looks like right now, from what I can tell, we've got about 29 rows here. And so why that is critical to know is when we go into Mockaroo, we're going to need to tell it how many rows to spin out the data. So that being said, let's go ahead and now we're going to switch into good old Mockaroo.com. So Mockaroo is actually set up on my browser, as you can see here. And so when you go into Mockaroo, and I'm already signed in, this is, by the way, there is a free version of this. I have the free version that's basically set up here. There are some caveats to it. I think that there's a limit of the amount of rows that you can have. So kind of keep that in mind. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in terms of, if you want to de-identify your data, maybe you want to consider just doing a small subset of the data for your dashboards to share with clients. But that's something to kind of keep in mind. What the cool thing about Mockaroo is that you have a lot of different, basically, field options here. So we have an ID number. Right now, this is always preset to first name and last name. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is say, for example, we can go into personal, so you can choose a type. I like to go into the personal options. There's quite a bit here. You can choose, given names, you can do first name, last names. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick a full name. And I'm going to so you can actually rename your fields. So here I'm going to just say project ID for that first one. And you can just do a row number. You could do something a little bit different. Sometimes it really just kind of depends on what you want to do. Sometimes you can do like a character sequence. It really just depends on what you want to do to make it look as close as possible to what you would usually do. But I usually just do something like a row number, and that's probably just fine. And then what we can go ahead and do here is we can say maybe project POC instead of that original one that we had that was an actual name of someone. And then maybe we also want to add in another one that's a, like project name or project description. And then that will be our version for doing that other project name that as it is listed there. So maybe we'll want to do, we could go into personal, we could do into the commerce, perhaps. I think the best one to probably do though is if we go into personal, you can just do company name or corporate or a fake company name if we wanted to do that for a project name. But the other one, I think that there is also another option that just randomly generates Lorem Ipsum. So we can go into that Lorem. I think it's under, let me look at what it's listed under. But essentially you have a lot of different options to do it with. So if you wanted to I'm just trying to find where it had the option there because it left me. Here we go. Chosen randomly from Lorem Ipsum. So it's paragraphs, but say for example, you can have at least, maybe 3, but no more than 5 for a given option here. And then let's just go back and add in our ID field, project ID as such. And let's go back and find our ID. There we go. So there we go. You've got 3 different things that we're going to take care of with the existing suppressed values. Go ahead and we want to bring in the number of rows that we had based on our suppressed data set. We want it to be in a CSV file. And then we'll go ahead, we can include their headers. And let's go ahead and we can generate this here. Let's see where it is going. Choose a data set. And so that will be all set for us. And so let's actually, I don't know why this is not, oh, you know what? That's really strange. I was not doing it. Apologies. Let's just go ahead and we're going to bring in that data set that we just anonymized. There we go. Okay. Let's go back to our schema. Oh no, it just lost my work. All right, I apologize, guys. But what I may just go ahead and do is I'll switch over to what it will actually look like once it is in the full flow. And I may actually be providing a video of this in the future. So this is what it would look like if you were to actually input this all back in. So you would essentially take that original data file that you had in, and you add in this thing that's called the mock data file. That mock data file is the one that is generated via Mockaroo. It will have all of the names that you had originally, as well as the 3 new columns that you would need to add in. So in this case, I added in ID, lead name, and I think it was project name that were the ones that took over the previous ones. So when we went ahead and joined those together, the idea here is that you do an inner join. And when you do that inner join, it will give you all of the, both the join results of the old and of the new. And then when you go ahead and check your data, what you're going to want to go ahead and do is get rid of any of the ones that you don't want, so the original ones, and then you keep the ones that are the newly generated Mockaroo ones. Following that, you spin it out into output, and then this is what your new data output would look like. And so from there, I think only thing would be is to maybe, yeah, so essentially in those ones that you see on the left, the right-hand side here, that ID, lead name, and project, those are the ones that would take over for the any ones that you had previously. So I know that the Mockaroo thing for some reason was not working the way that I wanted it to, but hopefully that will at least give you a little bit of a synopsis for how this works. I would say in total, it takes about maybe 10 minutes to do the whole entire process, but I will go ahead and exit out of that. But otherwise, I can also bring my presentation back up too. And that is pretty much it. You can also reach out to me on Twitter. Style Steamed is my tag. And then also I'm on Tableau Public. I do plan on doing a revisit of this in a short video. So hopefully I'll be able to get that up in the next week or so. But keep in mind though, you can do pretty much anything with Mockaroo. Just make sure that you save it before you go on and produce the data set. But let me know, feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I wasn't seeing anything as I was going through and focused on sharing my screen. But if we had any questions in the hover here.
Yes, we have. The first one is what actually happened during the suppress step?
What about the suppress step?
And like, I suppose that we want like you to explain what is like the suppress step.
Okay, so the suppress steps allows you to aggregate all of the, the values that you actually want to group by. So say, for example, I just want to create a list that's going to group by, say, for example, a person's name that's associated with a particular project or contract. That's what it allows me to do. It allows me to create a smaller list of everything, because for many of these data sets that we're usually working with, that person's name may occur multiple times in the data set. So I just want to arrange it so I can figure out, okay, for however many times this person shows up in the data, I just want to have every new instance of that person's name would be aligned with that newly created fake name. So that's hence the reason why I had to kind of come up with a row number there so that I could generate and tell Makaru and say, hey, give me a max of 29 rows with new names for each one of those people. So I hope that answers your question.
And then, do you have any concern about your data not being secure in Mokaro?
That's a good question. I've used it only for a couple of one-off times. I'm happy to look up some of the different scenarios and the security of it, but it doesn't look like there's any major issues from what I can see from a cloud standpoint. But I'm also not working with things that would be super worrisome to probably do, but your mileage may vary.
So maybe you can have a look at the other question, Christina, and answer. Raya will go through the following of the presentation, the analytic games. So the pressure is on me now to present. Thank you very much for your presentation.
No problem. I did see one thing from Joseph though. How easy is it to go back to the original? Yeah, so what I usually do, Joseph, is I actually keep in my folder a file that has the original of it, but it also has those newly created ones in it. So that way I can always go back to it and look through to see what I actually named things. What may be helpful though, is if you document in your the nice thing about prep is that you can do like descriptions and renaming of steps. If you want to, for your own, like my own mental needs, I can sometimes tell Tableau prep like, hey, these are the 3 fields. These were the original 3 names for these fields. And then here are the new names for these fields. And that way it allows me to figure out what the links were between things. And also in your join step too, you will see when you do the inner join between the 2, however many fields that you want to use. That way you have sort of a documented process for everything that you have. So I'm hoping that will help you.
And again, we will send your blog, all your information on the email. So don't worry, guys. And we also post it on the Tableau public forum. So let me share my screen. Okay. So let's start for the analytic games now. Let me introduce my co-speaker for this part, Sean Miller. Sean Miller is a Tableau visionary and associate director at data visualization at Evoltics. And he has been using Tableau since 2015. Yes, he has been selected as a Viz of the Week and is also featured in the book Makeover Monday. Exactly, it's very good, and he's really passionate about music, which was the data set. And thank you, Sean, for letting us use your data set. Do you want to tell a little more about your passion about music?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, whatever time zone it is for you. Hope everyone's doing good. Yeah, so interested. My other fun fact, my Viz of the Week that I mentioned there was actually my very first Tableau public dashboard ever published, and it was a music related dashboard. It was the Guardian's, which is a UK magazine, the 1,000 songs you must listen to before you die, which I had found, and so I visualized that in a dashboard, and it got Viz of the Week, which was something that they used to do. I don't think they do it anymore, but I think they just do Viz of the Day now. But anyway, I've always had a passion for music, and even before I was a data analyst. And so whenever I started becoming a data analyst, my 2 worlds just kind of collided into I love analyzing music. There's so many different ways to do it. And so I kind of taught myself how to scrape data off of websites, which is kind of how I created this Billboard Hot 100 chart data set, which goes all the way back to 1958. So it's every single Hot 100 chart, which was a lot of fun to build. And as I started playing with it in the early days, I noticed that I was making a lot of calculations a lot. And there were some that I wanted to do that were just very labor intensive. And I needed, Tableau was kind of, it was chugging out, it was bombing out trying to create some of the functions, some of the lookup functions that I was doing. So I actually taught myself Python pandas, and to be able to, so that I could do all that stuff with Python and then put those metrics that I've been using into the data set to do that. So it's on my GitHub page. Just search GitHub Hipster Viz Ninja, you'll find it, and it's great. I do keep it updated. I update it periodically throughout the year, so it's always up to date. The other thing that I do with music and data is I also kicked off last year hashtag data plus music, where we periodically have different topics about related to music. So I've actually done one with Christina and the Data FamCom. We did one on Netflix on Stranger Things music. So looking at the popularity we know of, Running Up That Hill, and the popularity of that song, that thanks to Netflix and Stranger Things. So we kind of looked at, how does the music of Stranger Things get affected or repopularized through that. So it's just a fun data set. It's a fun thing. So now that if you're interested, and if you played with this data set, you've found the many stories that are in it. So the challenge for you now, if you want to, is to go create a dashboard or something along those lines using this data set, and just share it out with the hashtag data plus music, and have some fun with it. So excited to be here, and excited to see, just excited to see how people approach these questions.
So let's see. Yes, there is room for interpretation. So we have been lenient on the selection of the winner. So the way it will work now, we had for this game 3 categories: beginner, interactors, and advanced. I will show how to resolve, one way to resolve the question. And at the end of each session, Sean will be sharing how well you have done on the question, and give the 3 winners for each category. This winner will be contacted by email, and hopefully they will answer to us with their email, with their postal address, so we can send them some swag. So Sean tells us, I just hide some part, otherwise it's complicated for me. It's data set about music. You have performer, song, chart date, chart position, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of things that you can do with it. And Sean have been very nice, because he create already some calculation to ease it for you, like chart debut, that is the first time a music arrive on site, or also a song ID, which is like a concatenation between performer and song. But let's start. The first question that we have on the beginner is, which decade has the most distinct song? So for that, I already create a calculation to earn some times. I create a decade calculation that just show if the year is below 60, that's the 50s, and so on and so forth. I could have used a case statement totally, but here I use a decade. The dashboard will be then published on our Tableau public profile, so you will be able to download. So here, if I drag and drop the decades, I just make it a little bigger, so you see it on my screen. Which decade has the most distinct song? I go on the song ID, so I can use it. But like I said, if Sean will not have been so nice, you could have just concatenate the song and the performer together. So you are sure that, because in the database, you have several songs that has the same name, but not from the same performer. So here you have the idea, but because Sean has been very nice, we can just use the song ID that he created and just have the count distinct. And now which decade has the most distinct song is the 60 with 6,954. Now let's go to the second question. How many unique songs appear in the Billboard chart in 1962? So here the same, I use the song ID, the count distinct, and I can put the chart date. Here, Tableau will always calculate that as a year. And in 62, the correct answer is 768 unique songs. I already have the answer on the document, huh? So in case I messed up. Which year represents 1.762% of the total songs ever present on the Billboard chart? So this one, if I put, again, we are interested on the year, so I will put the chart date on year here. And again, the song ID, option, drag and drop, control, count distinct. I could hopefully, yes, because I have the zoom window just on top of the column, so it's not very easy for me. But I can write the table calculation and calculate the percent of total. That's what we want. But because this number is not very easy to find, one option that you may use is use a reference line to have visually where is this 1.76261. So if I put now a constant and I write down 1761. Okay. Visually, I see immediately that is my year of birth, 1978. That has 1.761%. I feel very generous today, so I wanted to show you a bonus for this question that was not asked. And the bonus is, imagine that you have a decade filter. And when you have a decade filter, if all is selected, it's exactly the same percentage that I just showed you with this percentage here. But what if with the filter, I just select one decade now? Because the filter passed by before the table calculation, now the 100% is done on the decade level. If you would like to have that differently, and it's very, so I would just have to escape the mode, sorry. Otherwise, I cannot act on the calculation. So let's just me do that. Sorry for that. Because the way it's calculated here, it uses the total count, which is correct. But if I want to calculate the percentage of total song ever, I can totally create a fixed calculation. I know it's not beginner level, but I think it was very interesting to add as sorry. It was very interesting to add as like a bonus question. So I can have like some. And I probably messed up, but that's fine. That's fine. Like the direct is always like this. So I have like just the sum of my fixed calculation. Sorry, when I get excited, I messed up like this. So it's a fix. I want the sum of my fix. And I have the percent which year from the 60s now, if I check and answer correctly. So which year from the 60 represent 2.73% of the total. Now you can answer this question directly. which is 1966. So it's a way of fixing the total ever on the calculation. Now, the question 4 was, when did Benny and the Jet appear for the first time on the chart? So I know Benny and the Jet is from one of my favorite performers, which is like Elton John. So I can just search already for Elton John. Here you go. And have all his songs on the view. Okay. And you have Benny and the Jet, that is this one. You can even keep only. And like I said, Sean, I've been very generous because he already calculate a chart debut for you. And we could add like the exact date and discrete, so you know exactly that it was the 16th of February. If you need to do that, you can also create a calculation that is first time on chart, and I will be using that later, that just fix the minimum of the chart date. So it will be the first time it appears on the chart by song idea. And if I drag and drop this one, you can believe me, it's exactly the same day. But it's good to know. The last question of the beginner, and after Sean will take over and show the winner of this section, is which performers has the most distinct song on the Billboard chart? If you would have asked me this question, I would have probably said someone else, then I would have said like Taylor Swift, but it's not true, and we would like see that immediately. So if we put all the performer, and again, the song ID, sorry, song ID, count distinct, and sort it out, is Glee. The Glee cast has 183 songs on the Billboard chart because it's a number total song and not the success of how many weeks. So that will be on the intermediate and advanced level that we will check this question. I will just stop sharing so Sean can share the winner for this part.
Yes. All right. So what I decided to do was, before we get to the winners, what I want to do is just show you some of the distributions of each of those questions. So one of the questions that we asked you to complete before you started was, we asked you to select which category in which you are competing, right? So we had advanced, we have beginner, immediate, and advanced, right? So all of these are filtered down to just those that said they wanted to do the beginner. So, and here's the distribution of how they answered those questions. So lots of people got the 1960s. They got the correct one. That's great. Nice job. Number 2, the most unique songs. We had, again, the majority of folks do the select the right answer here. Number 3, again, 1978, we had a few other outliers and had a few people not answer. That's all right too. This is all just for having fun. And then everybody that answered number 4 got it right. So great job. And number 5, question number 5, the Glee cast. Again, everybody got that correct. So so good job. Yes. So Glee cast, amazing, fascinating story into them. I actually just released a public viz about them because basically they gamed the Billboard system, and what they did is they basically released digital download singles after every single episode, and then tweens and teens would go out and they would go buy up those MP3s, and they'd sell enough digital downloads every week that their songs would appear on the chart. So pretty cool stuff. All right, so having gone through all of those questions, what I did to do that, so again, we're learning, we're not just doing, learning about who wins, but we're also going to learn a little bit about Tableau. So we had all of our questions here. And basically what I did, if we go down here, here's basically how I did it, right? So basically I would create a set for each question, and I would just select the correct answer for that particular question, and that would create a set for that. And I would just do that for every single question. And then I would create another set that essentially combined all of those things. So if you've ever used combined sets, you know that you can only use 2 sets in a combined set, but we have more than two sets. So how are we going to do that? Well, what I did is I created a set based off of name, off of the name field. I went into conditional, so it's a conditional set based on sets. And you can actually use sets to define other sets if and only if you use aggregate, that anything that you use has to be, you have to use either the name field or you have to use aggregates. And because sets are essentially just a Boolean field, if I just take the max of a Boolean field, the max is or the values of a Boolean field is true or false. The max is true. So I just did the max of each set in the beginner questions. And that basically created a combined set of multiple sets. And so when I did that, these are the list of folks that got each of those questions correct and stated that they were competing in the beginner category. So nice job to all 18 of you. Very good job. Now the next thing is, who's going to win? All right, let's go. Question, here we go. Katie is our first winner. Let's do 2 more spins here. This is pretty fun, right? It's kind of like the Price is Right for those of you in the US. Angela, don't yet have a last name. That's all right. We have the email address in the data set. We'll be able to get that to you. We know which Angela and how to contact you. All right, one more. Let's see who it is. Lindsay Myers. Great job. Congratulations, Lindsay Myers. Excellent job. All right. With that, turn it back over to Annabelle to do the intermediate.
Thank you, Sean. Oui. So let me share my screen. You should be able to see it. Now I can move it around. So the intermediate. The first question from the intermediate is, how many weeks has the song Candle in the Wind, the 1987 version, stay on the chart? So again, I know that is Elton John. I already have the filter. Here I will apologize. The question is not correctly or perfectly labeled. So there could have been an interpretation. So we will show the 2 possible answers. And Sean, in his great grace, will integrate both answers as being correct, hopefully. So here, the songs. I will add all the songs. Candle in the Wind is this one. So the way of doing that, obviously, either you count distinct the chart date, and if I see it, count distinct, sorry, and the answer will have been 21 days. Or you could also have create a duration date like this, and that is where the interpretation counts.
We're not seeing your calculated field.
Ah, bad, thank you. So I will share my entire screen. I think it's better. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Thank you. So, or you could have created a duration field that calculates the date difference in terms of week between the first time on chart, that is either you fix the minimum chart date by song ID, or you use a calculation that has been provided by Sean on the chart debut, and the last time on chart. obviously, you could say, hey, it's like, it doesn't count the first or the last, so you could have +1 and you will have 21 weeks, or you say, I know, I'm just interested on the number of weeks it stay after the first time, and in this case, it's 20. So that's why I said that we should be lenient. This question could have been interpreted differently. So 20 or 21. The second question, from all Elton John songs, which are the 4 that stay more than 20 weeks? Because it's intermediate, I don't want to answer directly to this question. I want to be able to play a little bit about that. So again, I put already the performer Elton John here. I will put the song idea in detail. And I will have like a little fun because I want to see the position of the chart. I know it's not the question, but you can indulge me with some fun. So I want also to make this position reverse. So I will have like the first, when it arrives first on chart, it will be there. And now I want to see this position evolving 2 times. So to do that and to have all the songs starting at the same time, I will create the number of weeks on charts it release, which is the difference in terms of day and weeks, sorry, the difference in weeks, since the first time on the chart with the chart date. Like this, when I will drop that here, and I will just mention, and don't worry, I will put like something fun here, so you'll see. But if I click now on these songs, you can see that this song is very peculiar. It's a lot of weeks, so 41 weeks or 42, depending again. But the first thing very interesting is that this song arrived in position 1 directly on the chart from his first week. And he stayed on position 1 for 13 weeks. So this song has a very sad history because it was when the Princess Diana died, and the song, The Candle in the Wind from the 80s, got like re-entered the chart with a different version because Elton John loved Princess Diana. They were like a very big friendship in between them. But what is very interesting is like the way he enter and stay very long, and sadly across the weeks decrease. So the question, let's answer the question. How many, which are the 4 songs that stay more than 20 weeks? And again, if we will have consider the chart date, and let's put it in color, distinct, and we will not do that, sorry. I want the number of week on chart. Is it this calculation? No, sorry for that. I could recalculate, but I'm just lazy lazy tonight. Number of week of chart, but I think I will recalculate because I cannot find it, so that's fine. So if I calculate the number of weeks,
and I had to pull over and get out because I saw something that knocked me off my.
Christina, can you mute yourself? So if I calculate the number of weeks by song ID, wait, sorry. And I put it in color, and I will play around with this color. I will say that I want only 2 color step to see the difference. I want a diverging. That's fine. I will use a very fade color here and a very vivid color on this step. And I want more than 20 weeks. So I will put the center at 21. And like this, it had like 6 songs. So we will consider the 6 songs. If you read the question, you say, okay, maybe I should select the 4 songs that stay more than 20 weeks. And again, here, if you select the duration and you do exactly the same trick, that would highlight the 4 songs that are Candle in the Wind 97, Can you feel the love tonight? The one, and I guess why they call it the blues. So the next question. And sorry, again, I have Zoom messing up with my presentation, but that's fine. I just move around. Sorry for that, guys. Among the songs from over decade, what is the percentage of the song from the 70s that make a comeback in 2016? So here, that's where my calculation on decade is useful. I put it in column. I want also the date, chart date, in year, and that was the percentage of the song. And so I take the song idea into my rows, the distinct. That start to be what I want. What I also want is that from over decades. So I need to know where the song is coming from, which decade. So I create already a calculation to run sometimes that give me by song idea what is the first decade. So fixed song ID minimum decade, and this one I will use it in color. So that's good, but as the question stated, it's among the song from another decade, so not from the same decade. So I'm not interested in to see in 2016 what come from the same decades in 2016. So I want to remove all this decade. I can create a calculation that just check if the decade is different from the first decade. If I put it on my calculation, you see that you have a true and false in French here. So you just have to remove the one that are there. I will just exclude, and we are not yet here, but it's coming. And I just need to put the percentage of total. And to tell Tableau how I want the percentage of total calculated. Sorry. If I cannot click correctly while drinking, it's a problem. So yeah, I try to do two things on the same time, but it's apparently not possible. So now to answer the question from the 2016. So it's quite very interesting if you notice that it's like starting from 2010s and a little bit before, we had a lot of songs from over decades coming back. It's very sad and very interesting at the same time, because often it's related to a singer who died, a singer that had a lot of sustain in the 80s, 90s and who died, or that if a biopic, for instance, on his singer were released. So to answer the question from the 70s, 2016 is 6.67% of the songs. And that's a correct answer. And if you look at the full data to have the information, it's because David Bowie died and Space Oddity come back on chart very powerfully. But I will let you analyze. It's very interesting to see the other comeback. And then, yeah, sorry. The fourth question. Which is the oldest songs that appear on the Billboard chart in 2022? So, chart date. Okay, yeah. Let's select the year. So it's the last one in the database. No, we still have some dates in 2023. Let's put song ID. Already there. And the good thing is, whatever you will have put the week, the chart date on the chart, or or the condistinct of chart date, or the other one that is duration, you will have reached the same conclusion. That is not this one. Not this one. What did I miss? Apparently I did like something that I will not have done. Duration, yes, sorry. Number of weeks since release, that's the one that I want. number of weeks. Oh, chart since release. Exactly, sorry for that. If I add this duration of the number of weeks since release, I will have had the same calculation. That is, like maybe I should put like what is really true. That is Run Rudolph, Run from Chuck Berry. And I show it to you. If I put the duration, I have the same. 1 week difference again, but the same answer. So do you want to share the winners, please, Sean?
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's do this once again. So real quick, before, while I'm doing that, so can you go, so one of the questions I asked in the chat was, why are all of a sudden songs from other decades finally reappearing on the chart after so long? And you can see in the visual that Annabelle was showing.
You need to share.
Yeah, so if we look at that again, I think it was.
Now we see your V's on Glee.
Yeah. What? Oh, okay. Sharing the wrong
Which is
one.
good. Which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Stop share. Share again. I want my screen. There we go. Okay. So as you can see here, not a whole lot of reappearing. And then all of a sudden it really starts appearing, right? There's more songs that are reappearing on the chart. And you know that. And there were a lot of really good hypotheses why. Of course, yes, Parents, Guardians of the Galaxy, Stranger Things, all the things. But the big thing, the biggest thing is that Billboard changed the formula to incorporate streaming in there. So Spotify and iTunes and Google Play and all of those things. So streaming music plays are now heavier. Weighted heavier than radio play or anything like that. So that's definitely one of the reasons why you're seeing songs reappear on the chart, much like every single Christmas song. Mariah Carey's Christmas song that we all know and love reappears every November, the first week of December every single year. So, all right. Back to some fun here. Let's figure out who's doing this. So the first question of intermediate, we said we'll take both answers, 20 and 21. So you can see here 20 people. Also,
you need to show your screen. You still show Glee.
What's that?
Yes, I see only Glee for the moment.
Ah, no. Here we go.
That's fine. You know, that's reconfort me that I'm not the only one like making mistake while sharing.
I'm so sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, I apologize.
No problem.
That's all right. Okay, so real quick, somebody brought up in the chat, what was the distribution of how many people are in each cohort? So so here's kind of the breakdown. So in the intermediate, we're looking at 32 people. So if we go back, we can see here we've got, we said that we would take 20 and 21. So you can see here 20 people got that one right, which is great. Can you feel it again? I grouped up all of those. If we had to do this again, we are not going to make you put the names and artists in the results because my goodness, that data is messy. And that took a lot of that took a lot of for us to clean and collect and group and all that kind of stuff. So, however, I did finally get through it, and you can see most people got a lot of it, all of those songs in there. So again, that is both the 4 and the 6 in there as well. Again, we look at which is this one's interesting. We had four people say 6.7, with rounding error. I chose to throw that one in. But a lot of people also did 0.02 and 0.09, so that's interesting. Maybe there was a difference in how we were asking the question. There may have been some confusion, but potentially we're looking at maybe as opposed to the decades, or the denominator was off somehow. So apologies for not writing clearer we can do better next time, right?
Exactly. Next time we do better.
That's right. And then the fourth one is the Chuck Berry. Again, there were lots of different answers, so I grouped all those up together. A lot of people got those right. Now, what's interesting, there are only 2 people that got all 5 or all 4 of those correct. So Hannah and Heather, congratulations. Nicely done. We don't need to spin the wheel for that. And we also had bonus, which was go answer all of the beginner questions. And you both got those right too. So you both got all of those right. So again, this is just, again, we're doing, I'm adding both of those sets to get down to who answered those correctly. So Hannah and Heather, congratulations.
So let me share my screen last more time. Okay, I think, yes. Okay, advance. Now, which performer has the most songs that stay more than 15 weeks on the chart? So for that, because it's advanced now, we won't like to do something that stay in time. So I create a parameter X weeks on board, and I will be, according to the different question, update this parameter. So here I'm interested on the one that stay more than 15 weeks. So I will put something here. So, but the question is about performer. So let's put the performer first. So I want to know the song. I will create a calculation. So songs stayed more than something. So what I'm interested to know is to count. So to know if the count of, I will put that bigger, of the chart date, so the number of week, if this count is bigger or equal. So I will do it like this, bigger or equal, and I will update. So in that case, I will put 16 and not 15 on the parameter. So if count is higher than my parameter, that is X week on board, then let's say 1, and that's it. And then this calculation, maybe I was like too generous, I put it too big for my little screen. And this calculation, I will fix it by song ID. Or by, yes, by song ID. Okay. Then I will close. Perfect, he said that he's happy with me. And I will just drag and drop this into my view. So which performer has the most songs that stay more than 15 weeks? I need to put 16. And I will filter. And the answer for this question is Madonna, who has like 37 songs that stay more than 15 weeks on chart. By having calculated that already, it's quite easy to do exactly the same for answering the second question, that gives the number of songs which says at least 18 weeks from Elton John. So if I put the performer again, all the performer, and I put again my calculation, the songs that stay more than, you see I have a duplicate, because in case something happened to me, I can just show you the calculation. So now I just have to update this. It's at least 18 weeks. So in that case, yes, I put 18 on my parameter to count because I have higher or equal. And I can create a calculation that just check if the performer is Elton John. I put it in color. So Elton John is highlighted. And to the answer of this question is that Elton John has 17 songs that stay at least 18 weeks. But let's continue with the third question. Compare with Benny and the Jet. Again, I know, I love Elton John. So how many additional weeks the one stay on the chart? Again, it's an advanced question. So I want to create a calculation or a visualization that allowed me today to compare Benny and the Jet, but tomorrow just to click and interact and change my focus. So to do that, I will put my songs. I can put the song's name exactly. From Elton John, I can leave like a little bit more. And what I want to do is be able to compare the songs that I select. So again, to do that, I create a parameter. So just songs to compare. Now it's settled to Candle in the Wind, but we will change it later. And I will create a calculation that compare my selection, compare with the selected song. Okay, so what I want to do here. What I want to do here is that if my songs, maybe I'll do it a little bigger. If my song is equal to my song parameter, my song to compare, here, then what I want to do is take the chart date and end. Okay. And now I want to count distinct this. So to have the count distinct, I just apply, it appears here, I drag and drop. And that's good. I know that my Candle in the Wind, that's the one that I just selected, is 21 weeks. But how can I compare to other songs? What I want is that this 21 weeks this value is propagated to all the songs to be able after to make the difference. So I will use again the LOD expression, but this one I will use exclude. And what I said, I exclude the song and I take the count distinct. Up, I close that, I apply, of course, it's appearing red now, but not for long. I drag and drop, and now it's doing what I want start to do, is like to have 21 weeks everywhere on my calculation, on my rows. So now it's not totally finished. What I want is to compare the number of weeks of each of these songs minus the one that I have selected. So I have to write that. I count distinct of the date minus. Here I will complain if I hit OK, because I need to aggregate, so I can put a minimum attribute, whatever you would like. I will show for the minimum. I will just hit apply. Again, it will be red, but that's just like the time I replace the calculation. It is here, this one. I drag and drop. And now it's doing what I want. It's comparing every song from Elton John to the one Candle in the Wind. But to answer, I can put that in color to give more comparison. And now I just have to change a parameter. Or did I? Because what I did, because I'm very tricky, is like create an action. I use the worksheet action. I create a parameter action. Again, it's advanced. We should be able to do that. And on the parameter action, what I will select, it's already done. I will say, when you click on a song, this song will be fed into the target parameter, which is song to compare. And by doing that, I just now can click on Benny and the Jet, and the calculation will be adapted to Benny and the Jet. You see here it's 0 because I'm comparing Benny to the Jet to himself. And now to answer the question, I just have to go to the one and say that the one has 4 additional weeks in comparison to Benny and the Jet. But now you can do exactly the same for any of the songs and answer quite quickly. The last question from the female performer, which has the more songs that stay more than 30 weeks. I know we are going to make the calculation more and more complicated. So this one is quite easy. We take the performer, all the performer, okay. We want the songs that stay more than, we already calculate that. So I just have to drag and drop one of the calculation and change the parameter. So now I'm interested that stay more than 30 weeks. So I will put 31. The answer is Taylor Swift is a female performer that has more songs that stay more than 30 weeks. She has 9 songs. I can totally just keep Taylor Swift, add her songs, there. Yes, I could have put songs instead of songs ID. Yes. And then just drag and drop this calculation into filter and say I want only the songs that stay more than that as a 1, as that means that stay more than 30 weeks. And then, and I will have to move again this Zoom panel, otherwise I will not be able. Depending of what you put in the calculation, the answer may vary, but it's still the same, that the one that stays the longest is you belong with me. If you will have select the chart date, the consisting of chart date, you could have select check it off, or you belong to me if you just calculate the difference between the first time on chart and the last time in chart is you belong to me. So again, I think Sean has been very lenient and consider both questions. I will just stop sharing so Sean can show the winners.
Yes. And I will make sure I share the correct screen this time.
It's fine.
Okay. All right, here we go. So you can see Tableau, you can see the correct screen. You're not looking at, hopefully you're not looking at Glee this time. You're actually showing the Tableau there. All right, so here we go. So Madonna, there were some folks who answered Kenny Chesney. I think those folks, and they did say Kenny Chesney did have the most songs who had consecutive weeks of more than 15. So, but we were not looking at just total time on the chart. So that's where Madonna comes in there. And then we looked at, the number of weeks. So we did have a big jump in where we said 12. And again, 12 was consecutive, as 17 is just the total number. So again, just kind of be thinking about those things. If you said 17, I took your answer as correct. And let's see here. And then the next one was, comparison. Everybody got 4. Great job. Nicely done. And then I also, again, we just talked about, I did take both For or Shake It Off and You Belong to Me. So 19 people got that one as well. So great job there. So if we look at all of those 4 answers, we had these five people who answered them all correctly. But if we look at who did all of them correctly and did the bonus, there was only one, Lisa Rapp. So nicely done, Lisa. You're definitely going to be getting some swag because you are also, Lisa and Hannah answered every single question correctly. So nicely done to Hannah and Lisa. Very, very cool. But let's figure out a few more winners for this. So let's go back here and let's go here. Let's clear the list. And let's add those in. Get rid of name. There we go. Vince. Nicely done, Vince. And since Lisa's already getting one, we'll go ahead and remove her too. And Matt. Very good. All right. And then one more. Let's remove Matt. All right, Russell and Tor. Let's see who's going to get it. Tor. Nicely done.
Well done.
There we go. All right. So there you have it. There's your winners. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed this challenge. Hopefully you enjoyed kind of investigating this data set. Like I said, it's massive. It has so many different storylines to take. You can take it in so many different directions. You could build an app that, you could build an app that lets people select their birth dates, and you can see what the top chart was. You can look at by artists. You can look at how many songs have the same song title. You could get really down a rabbit hole of this whole collaboration phase that we're currently in, where there's featuring. If you're a fan of pain, like you enjoy mental pain, cleaning this data set and figuring out all of the different ways that performers concatenate their names in song titles is you can have some fun with it. So yeah, I've seen a lot of different ways that you can go. Again, check out my blog, hipstervizninja.com, and look at the you can look at the Data Plus Music project and get some more information. This is the data. This is the dashboard that that started it all. Learn about the Data Plus Music project. Join us. Make a dashboard about this chart or this data set, and have some fun with it. So thank you all so much.
And thank you very much, Sean, for helping us like to do this analytic game. Next time, we need to do a better job, but it's already good. Let me share my screen another time. And the last time, this one. Let me see. I suppose it's partagé. And then what I wanted to say is that if you have any idea and you want like to nominate someone to present, please let me know. We are in social media. Next TUG is already on in February, and we have again awesome speakers. It will be at the same time, and Chimdi will be there. And thank you very much to everyone for joining, and I wish you a very good night. Thank you very much.